You're listening to Creepy Encounter. Real stories, real fear. Every story you'll hear is based on true events, sent in by people who swear these moments still haunt them to this day. So turn off your lights, put on your headphones, and let's dive into tonight's Creepy Encounters. I've been driving for rideshare apps for almost 6 years now, mostly night shifts. It's quieter, fewer traffic jams, and I like the feeling of empty roads. But every driver knows that late-night passengers can sometimes be unpredictable, drunk, angry, or just strange. Still, what happened last summer was beyond anything I ever imagined. It's the only ride that's ever made me genuinely afraid for my life. It was a Thursday night in July. Hot, muggy, with that heavy air that sticks to your skin. I had just finished a drop-off on the east side of the city, around 1:20 a.m. My app pinged almost immediately with another request. Pick up near an old gas station just outside of town. At first, I thought it was odd because that area was mostly industrial buildings and a closed diner, but late-night pickups weren't unusual. I accepted the ride and drove about 5 minutes down the main road. As I approached, I saw a man standing under a flickering streetlight next to a parked truck. He wasn't moving, just standing there with one hand in his pocket and the other holding a duffel bag. When my headlights washed over him, he didn't wave or step forward, just looked straight at my car. Something about it instantly made me uneasy. Most people at least signal or check their phone when their ride arrives. This guy just stared. He looked to be in his late 30s, tall, maybe 6 feet, dark hair, clean-shaven, wearing a plain gray hoodie despite the heat. When he opened the door, I caught a faint smell of gasoline and something metallic, like rust or blood, but I couldn't tell which. You John? I asked, checking the app. He nodded slowly. His voice was low and dry. Yeah, John, thanks for coming. I started the ride and confirmed the destination. About 30 minutes west, near a rural neighborhood outside the city. I figured maybe he worked a night shift somewhere out there. I hit start ride and pulled out. For the first 10 minutes, neither of us said a word. He just sat in the back, directly behind me, not off to the side, like most people do. I could feel his eyes in the rearview mirror, but every time I glanced up, he was looking out the window, or pretending to. To break the silence, I said, "Long night?" He waited a few seconds before answering. "Something like that," he muttered. His tone made it clear he didn't want to talk, so I left it at that. But I couldn't shake the unease creeping up my neck. A few miles later, my phone buzzed with a no-signal alert. That wasn't normal. I'd driven this route hundreds of times before. The road here stretched through farmland, dark and empty. Just a few scattered houses and fields. Then I heard him whisper something. It was so quiet I wasn't sure if it was directed at me or himself. "What was that?" I asked. He didn't respond. I looked up in the mirror again. He was staring right at me this time. His lips curved slightly upward, almost like a smirk, before he turned back to the window. My stomach dropped. A few minutes later, he spoke again. "You drive this route a lot?" "Yeah," I say carefully. "Pretty often." He leaned forward just a little, his voice lower now. "Then you probably know. It's dangerous out here sometimes." I laughed nervously. "Well, depends who you pick up, I guess." He didn't laugh. He just sat back, silent again. The longer the drive went on, the heavier the air on the car felt. I could hear every sound. The tires on asphalt, the faint rattle of a keychain, even his breathing. When I reached for the AC knob to turn it up, I caught a glimpse of something in his duffel bag on the floor. The zipper was half open. Inside was what looked like a large kitchen knife, the blade dull but stained dark near the handle. My pulse spiked. I didn't say anything right away. I just kept my eyes forward, trying to think. It could have been anything. Maybe he worked in a kitchen. Maybe it was a tool. But then I remembered the smell from earlier, the metallic scent. I slowed slightly to check the GPS, pretending to adjust the route, and noticed something else. The destination had changed. It now showed a different address, about 6 miles further out, near an abandoned farmhouse area. "Hey," I said, keeping my voice steady. "Looks like your drop-off updated. That right?" He leaned forward again, close enough that I could see his reflection in the glass. "Yeah?" he whispered. "I changed it." Quieter out there, I forced a laugh. "Right. Sure thing." Inside, I was panicking. I scanned the road ahead. No houses, no traffic, no lights. Just fields and a line of trees on both sides. I started thinking through my options. Pull over and pretend there's a car issue. Call 911? But with no signal and him sitting right behind me, that didn't seem smart. Then he said something that froze me. "You ever pick someone up and just know you shouldn't have?" My mouth went dry. I tried to keep my voice normal. "Can't say I have." "You okay back there?" He chuckled quietly. "Yeah, just asking." I could feel him staring at the back of my head now. Not even pretending anymore. The road curved left, and in the distance I saw a small gas station. The only light for miles. I made a split-second decision. "Actually," I said suddenly, "I'm low on fuel. Gonna stop real quick, if that's all right." He didn't answer. I pulled into the gas station lot, bright lights cutting through the darkness. Only one other car there. An old blue sedan parked near the side. I shifted into park, turned slightly toward him, and said, "Be right back." He tilted his head, studying me. "Don't be long," he said. Something in his tone wasn't a request. It was a warning. I stepped out, forcing myself to walk calmly inside. The cashier, a tired-looking older man, barely glanced up from his phone. I pretended to check the shelves, but my hands were shaking so bad I dropped my wallet. When I looked back through the window, I saw the passenger door of my car slowly opening. I bolted to the counter. "Call the police," I whispered harshly. "Guy in that car, he's got a knife." The cashier blinked, confused, but when he saw the man step out of my car, his face changed instantly. He grabbed the phone and ducked behind the counter. I peeked through the window again. John was now standing beside my car, looking around. He glanced toward the gas station, then reached into his bag. I couldn't breathe. Seconds later, he turned and walked toward the far side of the lot. Into the dark field behind the station. Just disappeared into the trees. The cops arrived about 10 minutes later. They searched the area but found nothing. No sign of him, no footprints, no bag. The blue sedan that had been parked nearby. Gone. When they checked the rideshare records, the pickup request had come from a stolen phone. One reported missing 2 days earlier from another driver. Whoever he was, he hadn't been John. The police told me I did the right thing by stopping. But here's the part that still keeps me up at night. 2 days later, I got a call from an unknown number. When I answered, a man's voice, calm, familiar, said, "You shouldn't have stopped at that gas station." Then hung up. I filed another report, but the number was untraceable. That was last summer. I haven't worked a night shift since. Sometimes the scariest thing about driving strangers isn't who they are. It's not knowing what they plan to do once you got there. I used to drive long-distance routes for a private cab company, mostly airport runs or late-night travelers. One rainy Sunday around midnight, I got a pickup near Route 19, outside a small Pennsylvania town. The location was a diner called Miller's Stop. The note said, "Passenger, Kelly." When I arrived, the place was closing. A waitress locking up asked, "You here for Kelly?" "Yeah," I said. She frowned. She already left. Said her ride was here 20 minutes ago. I checked my app. The ride was still active. Just as I was about to cancel, the back door creaked open and a young woman hurried toward the car, shielding herself from the rain. She looked mid-20s, pale, dark hair in a ponytail, hoodie soaked through. "Sorry," she said, shivering. "Didn't mean to keep you waiting." "You're Kelly?" She nodded, avoiding my eyes. The drop-off was 35 minutes down Route 19. We drove in silence until she suddenly asked, "Do you ever feel like someone's following you?" I glanced in the mirror. Her eyes were wide, fixed on the dark road behind us. "Why?" "Someone following you." She told me about a man who'd sat watching her from his car after work. He'd followed her halfway down the street until she ducked into the diner. "Did you tell anyone?" I asked. "He left before they saw him." I checked the mirror. Nothing but rain. Still, I felt uneasy. A few minutes later, she whispered, "Can we take another route?" "Not Route 19, please." Her voice shook. I agreed and turned down a smaller, wooded road, the car filled with that tense quiet again. That's when I noticed dark stains on her sleeve. She caught me looking. "It's not blood," she said quickly. "I fell earlier." We drove another mile. Then she said, "Lock the doors." I did, instantly. "Why?" "Because he's out there." My heart skipped. I looked in the mirror and saw headlights, faint but closing fast. "Is that him?" She didn't answer. "Don't stop," she whispered. The car behind us matched every move. "Speed up." It sped up. "Slow down." It slowed too. Rain hammered the windshield. I told her, "There's a gas station up ahead." She shook her head violently. "No. He'll catch us." Then the headlights vanished. I thought it turned off, but I caught a flicker of chrome in the trees. Parked on the shoulder, lights off, watching. "He's waiting," she whispered. "That's what he does." Her voice was calm. Certain. Too certain. I floored it. We hit open road, and I silently pressed the emergency button on the app to ping my location. Then she said something that made me shiver. "You're not going to make it if you stay on this road." I glanced at her. Pale face, steady eyes. Before I could reply, the headlights came back. The car was right behind us now, flashing its brights. "Don't stop!" she screamed. I turned sharply onto a gravel side road through the forest. Branches scraped the car. When I looked again, the headlights were gone. We sat breathing hard, rain dripping through the trees. After a moment, she whispered, "You can stop here." "He won't come this far." I hesitated, but pulled over. She opened her door slowly. "Thank you," she said. "You probably saved my life." "Want me to wait?" I asked. She shook her head. "No, I'll be fine." Then she walked into the woods. No house, no path, just darkness. I called out, "Huni Kelly? You sure this is—" But she was gone. I drove back, heart racing. When I reached town, I told dispatch everything. They checked the system and said there was no record of any passenger named Kelly. The ride had cancelled 10 minutes before I even reached the diner. My GPS showed the route we'd taken, but the destination was just blank forest. Then the dispatcher said something that made my skin crawl. You're not the first driver to mention her. Same diner. Same story. One had crashed while being chased. Another quit driving altogether. No one ever figured out who Kelly was, victim or something else. Now, whenever I pass Miller's stop, I glance at that parking lot. And once or twice, through the rain, I swear I've seen a woman standing there. Pale face, dark ponytail, waiting for a ride that should never come. I used to drive for a rideshare app on weekends. Late nights, quiet roads. It was peaceful. Most passengers were half asleep or drunk, and the money was decent. One winter night, last December, I decided to call it quits around 11:40 p.m. My coffee was cold, and I'd made enough for the evening. I told myself I'd take one last ride if it came in. It did. Pickup, Evergreen Road, about 10 minutes out of town. Drop off, private residence, no house number. Strange, but not uncommon. The route led me off the main road into thick fog and pitch-dark countryside. My high beams cut through swirling mist, bouncing off wet branches. Finally, the GPS said, "You've arrived." Except there was nothing there. No house, no driveway, just a frosted field and the whisper of wind. I leaned toward my phone, ready to cancel, when the back door opened. A man climbed in without a word. Mid-30s maybe, tall, wearing a heavy coat with the hood up. I jumped. "Didn't see you there." "Cold night?" he said flatly. "Yeah," I muttered, shifting into drive. "Where you headed?" "Straight ahead," he said. "I'll tell you when to turn." I didn't like that. Usually people entered full addresses. But it was late, and he didn't seem drunk or unstable. Just quiet. We drove in silence, the heater humming softly. Every time I checked the mirror, he was staring out the window. Still calm, too calm. Trying to lighten the tension, I asked, "Long night?" He didn't answer at first. Then softly, "You ever pick up anyone out here before?" "Not that I remember," I said. He smiled faintly. "Not many do." Something in the way he said it gave me chills. After a few more minutes, he suddenly said, "Turn left here." I looked. It wasn't a road, just an old dirt path vanishing into the trees. "You sure?" I asked. "Left," he repeated, firm. I hesitated, but turned anyway. The tires crunched over frozen mud as the branches closed in like claws. It felt wrong, like driving into a place that didn't exist on any map. We rolled maybe half a mile before he said quietly, "Stop." I eased the car to a halt. "This the place?" He didn't answer right away. Then, "You can wait here a second." Before I could say anything, he stepped out and disappeared into the trees. There were no lights, no sounds, just the tick of the cooling engine. I sat there, hands tight on the wheel, debating whether to leave. But something about the way he walked off, calm, purposeful, made me freeze. After a minute, I called out, "Hey, you good?" That's when I saw it. Not ahead, to the right. A faint silhouette standing just beyond the trees, perfectly still. Watching, my stomach dropped. I flicked on the high beams. Only branches and mist. Then I heard footsteps behind the car. The man was coming back, slower now, deliberate. He stopped beside my window and gestured for me to roll it down. I cracked it open an inch. "Yeah?" "Sorry," he said softly. "My friend thought you were someone else." "What?" He straightened up, and I saw another man behind him. Tall, wearing a dark jacket, standing just out of the light. My pulse spiked. Thought I was someone else? Neither of them moved. Then the first man said, "You should go now." That was all. No emotion, no expression, just final. Something in his tone told me not to argue. I threw the car into reverse, backing out fast. Mud splattered up the sides as the headlights swung wildly across the trees, catching both men, still standing there, motionless. When I hit the main road, I floored it. My heart was pounding so hard it made my chest ache. A few miles later, I pulled over, cancelled the ride, and filed a safety concern. The next morning, I called the app's support line to report what happened. They checked and told me no ride was ever logged. No record, no name, no fare. It was as if the request never existed. I checked my dashcam, but the footage froze the second I turned onto that dirt path. The last visible frame was the man's reflection in the mirror, eyes wide open, staring directly into the camera. I stopped driving nights after that. Sometimes, though, when I pass that stretch of highway, I swear I see a faint turnoff. A dirt path leading into the woods. No sign, no tracks. Just darkness. And if you look long enough, you can almost see two shadows at the edge of the trees, waiting for their next ride.